We'll focus on the future in the here and now. Business and technology coming together as an economic driver for the region. This is What Matters. Good evening, I'm Cathy Lewis. If you've found yourself, as I have, intrigued but a little bewildered by the rapid pace of change in technology and you can't quite figure out what it means for you and for your future and the future of your children, then you may want to head to the Sandler Center for the All Systems Go conference. It's there for one more day, July 10th, a great opportunity to explore the potential of technology and to figure out how to translate your 20th century skills into the 21st century. So we will be considering the conference and the issues it raises tonight with Jim Batterson, who's a former NASA engineer who was a senior advisor to the Commonwealth for STEM initiatives under the Kaine Administration. Also with us is Kim Land. She is with NASA Langley in Hampton with their outreach for the Exploration Technology Development Program. And Michelle Larkin is with us as well. She's a board member with FACES, or the Foundation for the Advancement of Creative Educational Solutions. She's also the project manager for the first annual All Systems Go Tech Conference in Virginia Beach. Welcome and thanks to all of you for joining us tonight. Boy, you know, Jim Batterson, I want to start with you just because you and I have had these conversations many times over the years, and I feel like we're sort of picking up where we left off last time. I'm glad to see you again tonight, and I hope we can continue this conversation about STEM, which, to remind our viewers, is science, technology, engineering, and math.
Yes, ma'am. That's right. Got them all.
So we've talked a bit about science and math, and in the 20th century we kind of had that in pretty as well as one supposes we could have it. But there were some missing ingredients: the education and the technology piece of it. I'm sorry, the engineering and the technology piece of it.
Yeah, that's right, Kathy. What we found was that over time, matter of fact, the high school curriculum recently found out, went back to some base material. The high school curriculum was actually put together in 1894. Wow. By the Committee of 10. If you Google Committee of 10, you'll see it was a very nice committee headed by Dr. Elliott, the president of Harvard, and they determined what science would be taught, what math, and so on and so forth. At that time, science was only chemistry, physics, and astronomy. Biology was actually botany and zoology, and it was classified as natural history. So this is the basis. This is the basis for what we do today, where we teach biology first and then chemistry, even though biology is now molecular biology and not classification of plants and animals.
Really interesting.
So we have that, and then it's really been created. I have a chart. I
want to look at this because this really is the key that will help you understand where these gaps are in the system between what we were doing and what we need to be doing, and it has to do with how we've been educating kids all along. Right.
So if you look at this chart, on the left-hand side, you see science and mathematics, and those are almost all theory, as it says at the top by the picture of Einstein. Very little hands-on. On the far right-hand side of that chart, you'll see other trades, which we used to call shop, and then vocational education. In the 21st century trades even, we've added to the HVAC and to the welding and so forth, we've added computer administrator and network administrator and stuff.
It's this middle part that's problematic.
That's right, because you're either in trades, which is CTE, career and technical education, or you're in the instructional program for college. And what's happened in the last 15 to 20 years is people have created engineering programs nationally, like Project Lead the Way, which is run out of Old Dominion University for Virginia. And that actually bridges the gap between the all hands-on world, the trades, and the all theory world of science and mathematics. So kids actually use both. In order to get an engineering degree, they have to use both their hands and their theoretical thinking in order to solve problems for society. Science discovers the world that is. Engineering creates the world that society needs, and it bridges this gap.
Wow. And Kimberly Land, as we think about NASA and the Exploration Technology Development Program, this is a big piece of what you're trying to accomplish there, isn't it?
In fact, a lot of the stuff that I am privileged to work with for the program involves getting that next generation workforce into our projects. We have 20-some projects that span over NASA, 8 centers out of the 10. And what helps us really push these technologies and this education and engineering is getting the kids to get internships with the projects at an earlier point in their careers, and so they really get a taste of what NASA's going through with in regard to developing advanced technology.
Yeah.
So it's like now we're doing technology development tests throughout the year, but we have internships that are being offered not just for the summer, but throughout that program, so they can be enveloped into that.
And really interesting development opportunities that you're working on over there as well.
Oh yeah, stuff that's you only see in the movies.
Yeah, such as, give us a few examples.
Well, for once, robotics, it's huge. Kids love putting things together, making them perform in an environment that's unlike any other. So we have robotic competitions, and the kids really love to see the engineers behind it.
We've got a lunar exploration
right here. For instance, that's a robotic rover that we hope to one day go to the moon with and exhibit some of the advanced things that moon buggy back in the Apollo days couldn't do.
Yeah.
So as you see here, we have a detachable suit port that once you're in that rover, you can be able to go from a short sleeve environment, go right into your suit and do EVAs without the environmental. EVA is the extravehicular activity.
Extravehicular, who doesn't know that? Extravehicular activities.
But you know, you can go right from your cabin and go right out into the environment of space without any hazards. So it's really cool stuff. And this really just demonstrates, you know, a rescue scenario. Not that we anticipate any dangers on the moon, but we always have to have a backup contingency.
Got to have a backup plan, no question about it.
So, Cathy, so what we have, Kimberly's talked about at NASA, and what Michelle's going to talk about in the conference. In this area of Hampton Roads, we have all these opportunities for kids to advance themselves in what are STEM areas.
Right.
But what happens is we don't really have any introduction to that in the public schools except in a few cases.
So that's why they have to kind of discover it on their own.
Right. They have to decide they're going to do this program, or they're going to go to the expo, and we don't really have anything to introduce them to it and to bridge this gap between hands-on and theory. But these programs exist. I mean, we have the Children's K-5 engineering for elementary schools in Virginia. It's maybe 20 or 30 schools, but not everywhere. So we have Project Lead the Way, which is in 20 or 30 schools, but not everywhere for the high schools. And there are middle school programs also called gateways. So there are turnkey programs you could put in place, but the Department of Education has not put these together in any coherent way so that you see this continuity that we could have and just grow kids who understand the engineering state of mind. And they don't have to become engineers, but they're going to be voting on who's the NASA budget. They'll be voting on what we're going to do in the future, and they have to have an understanding.
And this is a great point, because we did one of these broadcasts before and highlighted some of these programs. If you go to our website, whatmatters.tv, you can find that program. It's very, very interesting what they're doing. It's really incredibly fascinating. Michelle Larkin, boy, against this backdrop, you have this great conference that's underway right now. So tell us about FACES, and then this is your first annual conference, right?
Well, we're in the process of birthing two organizations at the same time. FACES, actually, which is the Foundation for the Advancement of Creative Educational Solutions, is intended to identify, promote, and encourage best practices in the areas of STEM education. So all the things that we're talking about here, we want to promote them, bring them to the public. Specifically, these conferences, such as All Systems Go, are industry specific, and they're typically professional and geared toward the sciences, but not the public that consumes the science or that's affected by the science. So what we want to do,
that's what this is.
This is to invite everyone in to touch, feel, experience, have fun with it, learn about it, at the same time be educated by industry leaders and subject matter experts such as NASA.
See, that's such a great point, because I think a lot of people can sort of get conceptually the concept that maybe their children should be doing this or the next generation, but they don't have a sense of how this stuff connects, what the potentials are, and why it's important, why it matters. So this is the conference for people like us.
Homerama for science.
Homerama for science. Well done. What a good analogy. That's amazing.
Come see it, walk through it, touch it, feel it, but then you get to go back and advocate for it, to support such programs such as what NASA is doing in the SOL enhancements and progressing moving forward. That's what FACES is really
so
about.
So a conference is a tough thing to put together. This is your first one that you're putting together. What would we see if we showed up tomorrow?
Well, we'd come out to the Virginia Beach Convention Center down to, at the waterfront. We're hoping to enjoy that as well. But you'll see a Virtusphere, which is a gerbil-like piece
of what?
A Virtusphere.
Okay.
Which
I take your word for
it. You get to immerse yourself in the 3D technology, and you'll be able to kind of walk through it, and people will be able to see you in the ball, but you'll see a screen, and we'll see what you're seeing.
Wow.
Panasonic will be on site with their 3D technology, so there'll be a 3D camera, and there'll be an environment where you can get in and see how it translates onto your major screen. Rick Wade, who is from the U.S. Department of Commerce, will be there representing the President's initiatives on small business and broadband technology. Mario Armstrong is actually, I'm really looking forward to that for a Saturday. He's actually a CNN tech correspondent, but has a passion for young people. So he has a major edutainment piece that's going to have music and technology and entertainment all put together on Saturday morning at 10. And we're really
so this really is. This is not for. No, I mean, it's not just for people who are interested in science. It's for everybody.
Families,
right? Yeah.
for professionals, for
Families,
children, for youth. Everybody can come out. It's only $10 to come to the expo.
Wow.
For Friday is more business oriented. There's a conference, so you can go to the website allsystemsgoexpo.com for that. But the conference is more at the professionals in the arena that to open their minds to, for example, Verizon's coming to talk about the FiOS and impact on business and how to enhance your capabilities through using their technologies. So those kinds of things will be available on the business side, but on the main stage you want to incorporate that same conversation but in a different language so it's more palatable for the public.
You know, Kimberly Land, one of the things that NASA did, and so it's in some respects related to that, is their own version of the TED Talks. And if you're not familiar with the TED Talks, these are amazing things. You can download the podcast, and you download the podcast sometime. They are essentially collaborations and communities of tremendously smart people who give these amazing presentations. They all come and do it for free, I understand. I mean, just the idea is just a big collaboration and really interesting to think about. And so people, folks just like you and I, come to these things and learn from really smart people, and we're doing a TED here, the second one, right?
Second one. Last year it was in the November time frame, and I unfortunately missed it. I had another engagement. But this year we're ramping it up again, and we're hoping that we'll get even bigger turnouts. I mean,
you had amazing speakers last year. So when you hear this thing come up, it's going to be in October, and we'll be doing something on it as soon as we learn more about what the speakers are going to be. But when you hear this come up, it is very much worth your time. And if I recall correctly, it was free. Is that right?
It's a free, open to the public.
Free.
Anybody who's into technology, wanting to know where we're going with technology, how it relates to NASA. We had a lot of folks who still talk about it. So
it was an amazing conference. So free. So when you hear that thing come up, you will definitely want to be aware of that. And if you can, head over there, do it, because you won't get that kind of information much of anywhere else. And so, Jim Batterson, this must be encouraging for you, that you see what NASA's up to here, you see what Kimberly's doing, what Michelle is doing. It must be encouraging to you.
Yes, I think, one of the things when the industry people and some government people got together and first looked at the STEM situation in Hampton Roads, we were encouraged by what a broad range of capabilities we have. There's draws to jobs, there are activities and mentoring and people putting on exhibitions and doing things to help. We're really blessed in this area to have this science and technology capability. But the one thing we don't do is take it upon ourselves in Hampton Roads, and we can do it, to bring all this capability together and use it in our schools, in our local schools.
Yeah.
That's what we don't do.
And just now, the Hampton Roads Partnership, just now, it's a big initiative. The Hampton Roads Partnership has really shown the light on STEM technology, on measurements technology, on some of these issues that have been very important for the region, and they're really starting to kind of coalesce over a plan.
And they use the word workforce. We worry about the workforce, and it's an interesting thing about coding. In K-12 education, when you say workforce, you're talking about the right side of that chart I put up. That's trades. People who go from high school right into the workforce. But when we talk about workforce at Hampton Roads Partnership, and we talk about workforce here, we're talking about workforce writ large, and that is whether you go to high school or community college or to four-year college, or any of those. That's the workforce, and that's what we have to be preparing kids for.
And we're talking about an industry. If we think about technology in this community, we're talking about an industry that has amazing potential here that you're starting to see pop up all over the place. But the jobs, I read something where some of these jobs are paying in the range of mid-80s for young folks. I mean, that's terrific income.
Yes.
So I mean, there's great potential here. Do you have the sense that from a regional perspective, we are doing a good enough job, setting aside the schools for a moment, but a good enough job of pulling together the industrial piece and connecting it with education?
I think we're starting to do that. I think the Hampton Roads Partnership has provided a really nice framework in which to get industry leaders together and education leaders together to do that. So I think we're on the way to doing it.
Yeah, and so if you were an educator watching this broadcast tonight and this is inspiring to you, what do you want educators to take out of this conversation? What do you want them to do differently to enhance that middle part of the chart that you put up earlier?
Yeah, and it depends what level. For school board members and superintendents, I'd like them to get involved. I mean, they have a regional program, it's called Region 2, where there are 18 school divisions in the Hampton Roads area. They work together. I'd like them to get involved with us in developing this continuum of STEM capability in each of the school divisions.
So that we don't just have pockets of great programs here and there, but it really is integrated throughout the system.
When we looked at the standards of learning in 2007, one of the numbers we found was that 84% of the students, and if you take a snapshot of the high schools in Virginia on any given day, grades 9 through 12, 84% of the kids rely totally on the standards of learning. Because there are 15% in AP, and there's 1% in governor's school, and 0.5% in IB, International Baccalaureate. So the vast majority of the kids really rely on the standards of learning. They need to be current, they need to be up to date, they need to prepare children for the 21st century. And this idea of connecting the idea of trades, the hands-on stuff that we thought was technical school for kids just coming out of high school, and not really preparing them to go on to further education at community colleges and four-year colleges is a passé idea in the 21st century. And the idea that you just go in science and math and go through college and then get a job and continue on is also a bit passé. So it's a new world, and there's this connecting piece where you make something, you can create things, and that's the world of engineering.
And certainly engineering very much a part of what they're doing at NASA. And as you think about what the opportunities are there, I wonder, we've talked about young people in general, but specifically here in the Hampton Roads community, are there, what kinds of opportunities would be unique to this region and opportunities for children here?
Let's see if I can just come down to a smaller list. Well, we do these internships and co-op programs for all different areas of NASA. It's not just space. It's, we've got aeronautics, we've got, all the different engineering paths that you can certainly look into at Langley specifically. But every year we have this huge influx of young people come on our center. And it's such an amazing situation to be in. And it looks like a college campus. We even have the long beards for the professors, if you will. But one of the things that's neat about it is they're really pushing real scenarios, what NASA's working toward now, and putting that into the curriculum of these internships rather than having them just visit for 3 months and get paid. They're developing, they're simulating. It's almost like going back into time and seeing a NASA engineer and a team of young people working on real case scenarios with real budgets, well, maybe a little bit higher than what we get now, but they do go through the same struggles and same operational scenarios that we would go through in a big mission, whether it's to Mars or simulated, moon missions or an ISS repair mission. And they walk these kids through they lean on the engineers to give them that content so that we're not way off path. But it's a neat experience. So we have that's a really amazing, sometimes just a 2-week period of time where, maybe 40 kids get together and go back into the day of the life of an engineer.
Amazing. So what do businesses get out of the expo that's coming up? If you're a business leader, that would be something to think about.
The expo is going to be a really eye-opening experience. It really is an opportunity to get with the decision makers and the creators in the environments of 3D and of Hayes Fountain from TBS is going to be Turner Broadcasting. So you get to be around people who are using the technology now to enhance their business, to enhance their footprint, whether it's virally on the social web networks or whether it's on television using 3D interactives, or whether it's understanding how to integrate what the children are learning into the workforce. So you're preparing both students to enter the workforce and existing employees to transition and become more technologically savvy in their workplace, so that broadband, for example, is used in the maximal potential. But again, it's an interesting time that we're living in. The tapestry is being woven, and what you're going to see here is an intersection of a lot of different activities in the technological realm.
Well, it really is exciting.
And what she's talking about really helps us too, because the young people today, I mean, I'm still trying to figure out how to work my phone or whatever, but you know, they're really into all this technology, and they utilize it just to communicate with a friend all day long. Maybe it's texting. No, I know.
I do not want to be left behind.
We should be relevant, current, and competitive just as they are.
Yeah,
we have to compete.
Because one of the things on the standards of learning, you'll remember the most egregious mistake was they had cathode ray tubes, TV picture tubes.
Right.
And they say one of the reasons they had that was kids could identify with them, and they know here's physics related to what they have at home.
Not
Nobody
anymore.
has picture tubes at home anymore.
Nobody has picture tubes at home anymore.
Yeah.
That's a great point. Well, I tell you, it's exciting. So head on over to the conference tomorrow, right? Where?
Yes, Virginia Beach Convention Center from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And there's a Najee concert tonight, Friday night, at the Sandler Center. So join us for that as well.
Good enough. All right. Well, thanks to all of you for being with us tonight. Really interesting program, and we'll have you back for the second annual. That's how optimistic and hopeful we are.
I am too.
There we go. I'll be back in a moment with a special remembrance of the late Senator Robert Byrd. You no doubt know by now of the passing of the Senate's longest-serving member, Robert Byrd of West Virginia. I had my own experience with this wily, prolific, poetic, fiddlin' Federalist. It was sometime around 78 or 79, and the famous psychic, Jeane Dixon, issued a prediction that Senator Byrd would be elected president in the 1980 election. Well, as they say, you have to enter to win, and so the great question of the day was whether the senator would throw his hat in the ring, and nobody had been able to pin him down on it. Well, I had just graduated from Marshall University with my journalism degree in hand, and I knew I was just the person to jump at the chance to head to the West Virginia State Fair to put the question to the man himself. Well, when we arrived, he wanted us to come with him to tour the fairgrounds. And tour we did. Robert Byrd saw every oinkin' pig, every racing rabbit, every apple fritter, every corn dog, and fresh-faced 4-H'er in the place. Every few stops, I would say, "Can we talk now?" No, he'd say, "Let's head on over there and see what they're doing with the ramps." Now, ramps, for the uninitiated, is a wild, leek kind of an onion thing that has enough garlic flavor in it to ward people off for days. It's a little West Virginia delicacy. And this little tour went on for hours in the hot summer sun. And we were just about to get down to business when the fiddlers took the main stage, and the self-taught senator rushed up to join them, playing one of his favorites from his then just released album, I have an autographed copy, Mountain Fiddler. The song was There's More Pretty Girls Than One of his favorites. We were ready to collapse from heat exhaustion at that point when he finally said, "Let's step into this air-conditioned trailer." And finally, I got to ask him the question everybody was chasing to ask. I was very proud of myself until on the way home, I realized that he had talked a lot, but he never answered the question. And I'm guessing he chuckled about that on his way home, knowing that he had played me like a fiddle. If the Robert Byrd you know is the one of recent years, the frail, white-haired gentleman who didn't really always look capable of carrying out his duties, you might want to check out his list of credits. This child of Appalachia carried a worn copy of the Constitution in his pocket, and unlike many today who just wave it around, Robert Byrd actually knew what it said, how it had been interpreted through time, and the dangers it faces in the modern era. He was part of a minority that in the days after September 11th, when patriotism was the order of the day, argued strenuously against authorizing President Bush to use force in Iraq. He was also briefly a member of the Ku Klux Klan as a young man, a decision he regretted later in life repeatedly, saying he didn't care how many times he had to apologize. It was wrong, and he was sorry. And you can take this to the bank. The people of West Virginia loved him. It's why they returned him to the Senate to serve under 11 presidents. They loved him in part because he brought billions back home. Who wouldn't? Some of them a little improbable, a Navy and a Coast Guard installation in a mountainous landlocked state. But they also loved him because you'd be hard-pressed to find any other single person who's done more for the state. West Virginians are a self-reliant bunch, and they loved the adopted orphan who put himself through school, got elected to Congress, making law by day and going to law school by night. Someone asked me one day when I thought he'd retire. "Are you kidding?" I said. "He will never retire. In fact, I think if they put him on the ballot in his current state, he would probably get elected again." He was the last of the great old stem-winding politicians who incorporated poetry and a firm grasp on the lessons of ancient history. One thing's for sure, they may elect another person to the seat he held, but they will never replace Senator Robert C. Byrd. Well, if you want to let us know what's on your mind, there are a number of ways you can reach us here at What Matters. You can go to our website, that's whatmatters.tv. That's where you can watch this program or the terrific program we did earlier with Jim Batterson, where we talked about some of these amazing programs that are unfortunately just sporadic across the state that we sure would like to see across the state consistently. You can drop us an email. You can join us on Facebook. You can sign up for our weekly newsletter to find out what we're working on for you. As soon as we know, we will pass it along. For more local talk, I hope you'll join us on the radio dial for Hearsay on 89.5 WHRV. You can listen in live every weekday at noon, and we will be glad to take your calls. Well, thanks again for watching. I'm Cathy Lewis. We'll see you next time for another look at What Matters.